Alexis Salyer,
Yep.
welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Two-time guest.
Yeah, second time.
We were talking before this, like feeling a little nerves myself or I don't know, something, because it's been a while for our little team here. So maybe season 4, is that technically where we're at? So welcome back, episode 1. Excited to have you.
Oh, wow. Well,
Will you reintroduce yourself for people that are listening?
Yeah. So Alexis Salyer, I am the program director for Stillwaters for Women. I have been an employee of Cumberland Heights since 2018. Mm-hmm. So this is my 8th year here, coming up on it, which is really crazy. I'm also an alumni from Cumberland Heights, and I'm very transparent about that. It's a big part of how I got here, and my passion for working here is that I went to treatment here. This is the place that saved my life, you know? So it's also the only place I've ever worked career-wise and in the recovery industry is Cumberland Heights. So, and then I made my way out to Stillwaters in 2019, late 2019. And I did business development with them for close to 5 years, 4 years. And then I moved into the director role in 2023. Yeah, about mid-year 2023. So coming up on my 3-year anniversary out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I love it. I found my spot.
So instead of telling everybody what Stillwaters is, we're talking about we talk about this all the time, but what do you tell a resident's mom? How do you describe it to a resident's family member?
Yeah.
About what you guys do?
So when I'm talking to a family, it really depends on what the past experience is with the family, because Stillwater serves, a lot of different people. But for the most part, I focus on the closeness, the smallness of the programs. Both of them are relatively small. Stillwater's Women especially, like the main house has 11 beds. It's gender-specific campus. It's an all-female facility. It's an all-female staff. I'll talk mostly about Stillwater's Women because that's where I spend all my days at.
Yeah.
And so I talk about that because that we build something with these women that they probably haven't experienced before, even if they have done a prior treatment, because of a larger community. They get very close very fast with that small of a community, and they kind of dive into this thing together. So our sisterhood, we talk about the brotherhood a lot from Stillwater's Men, but I've genuinely see a sisterhood form from Stillwater's Women that I hadn't seen before. And they're close and they're coming back out. Like, you have no idea how it's at least 2 to 3 times a week that alumni come back to campus and are visiting, and they're sitting in groups and they're, doing things. So there's a closeness, and you learn to build a healthy relationship with another female, which is, me personally, something I did not know how to do when I got here. Because that's your community. That's like, I look at my sobriety. Why is community
important?
I look at my sobriety today, and, I have a husband and a family and all of these things, but it is my female community is the reason that I make it day to day. Like, that is my advisory board. Those are my people, Community, recovery thrives in community. It's a known saying. Recovery thrives in community, and addiction thrives in isolation. When we get here, we are so isolated from the real world, from our families, we have no friends left, at least not healthy ones, And so I think for me, that's where I fell in love with recovery. Was I felt what connection and what community, people, not just random friends off the street, but people that understood exactly what was going on in my brain when I got here, and they could speak my language. I didn't feel unique. I didn't feel crazy when I got here, and I was talking about all these thoughts that were running through my head in early recovery. I was met with other women who were like, yeah, I have the same thoughts. Let me walk with you and show you how I did it. And that's something that I talk about with with families a lot too is the uniqueness of having a staff that is every single person in their own 12-step recovery, because we walk with them. You know, it is, I can sit in front of these women and say, I have sat exactly where you are sitting right now. I've had these fears. I've had these feelings, and I'm on the other side of it. Let me show you how I did it.
So what do you say though how is Stillwater's different than traditional rehab these days? I'm trying to ask you some questions that maybe we wouldn't normally wade into.
Yeah.
But I totally believe in the value of Stillwater's, just to make sure that everybody, that's absolutely clear. I'm an alumnus of Stillwater's, actually.
Yes.
The men's program.
Yeah.
And there are differences, and let's spend some time talking about what those differences are. And I don't know. I just think that we live and breathe this every day, all day. And addiction treatment is emergent for people when they're trying to make a decision. And so I personally knew nothing about levels of care or, 12-step immersion. I didn't need to know. So
yeah,
I'm just curious, like, let's spend a little bit more time. What is different between a Stillwater's immersion program and a traditional rehab setting in 2026?
I mean, the only comparison I can do is from my own experience with going through a traditional setting. I was introduced to the 12 steps, but there was a larger population and there was a lot moving around. And so I was introduced, but at a very, here's the 12 steps level. Stillwater's is going to take it to the other end of that spectrum. We're going to dive so deep into the 12 steps, like so thorough. I'm a big believer in like that first step. We have to do that one 100%. And we do that at Stillwater's. When you walk into Stillwater's, you got no idea what your reservations are. What are some pitfalls and hangups that are going to pop up in the real world? We're going to try to identify those. And then I think another big part of it is the life skills aspect of Stillwater's, and these women and men, they're cooking meals for themselves. They're living. They're doing it. They're doing daily chores. We don't have like a housekeeper that's coming in. It is, they take I've seen, especially with the women, they take an ownership. Like this is their home in a way. Like they don't feel like visitors. And so they take pride in maintaining the facility itself. It makes my job really nice and easy because they just come to me when they need like something that they're like, hey, I noticed this.
To
and
make this better.
They take this onus on it, and it feels real life. We try to make it as real life as possible in a residential setting, because we need to know what's going to pop up, when you have some free time. There are certain things you're not going to be able to catch everything that's going to happen in the real world, but a lot of it is making it as real life as we can in a structured, safe setting. Yeah.
I'd say that a residential care, like the goal of residential care is stability. And I'm not sure that it's possible to, and that goes down like a whole philosophy of change conversation, which we don't have to go down. But like, I don't know if a traditional residential experience that's maybe on average for maybe 5 weeks is everything is healed. It's all done, right? So when I think about stability, I think about like, let's breathe. Let's safely, medically detox. Let's try to get in balance with our bodies, our minds, psychiatry, stability.
Yeah.
Let's stabilize.
Yes.
And then let's determine, based on that unique person's experience and presentation, what perhaps is going to help them access long-term recovery over time. And generally that means more engagement, more treatment at a lower level of care. And one thing I want to call out to like the parent that's learning about treatment is an option to that, although you can go straight into a program like Stillwater's if you successfully detoxed, which we can do. But is what your program does a really good job of is teaching people how to live in recovery.
Yes.
We've been playing around with this idea, like we've called it for so long, you and I, 12 and everybody else, 12-step immersion. And maybe we should be thinking about it as more 12-step living.
12-step living.
And people are like, well, but Nick, hold on. Why are you guys, we can go in any direction, how much it costs, why it costs that.
Yeah.
Because we think it's a pretty affordable price point to remain accessible to as many people as possible. But the point I think I'm trying to make here is that what you're doing in your program using the flat book.
Yeah.
The step working guide.
Step working guide. Yep.
So as you mentioned the first step, 69 questions.
69 open-ended questions.
Yeah, open-ended questions. Peer-led. So, what that looks like, based on my own experience, is having a guy or a gal spending time, usually several hours, writing those questions.
Yep.
Writing on those questions in journal form or however, complete sentences, I think was the guideline. So no, yes, no.
Yes.
And then being invited in a group setting to present on everything that you wrote. And that being led by a staff member, but also by other
the community
members that had been through that step. And what I experienced, that taught me the value that's, again, in magic, spirituality, use whatever word you want to use, but that was organic recovery. Experiencing what it's like to be truly genuine and authentic and vulnerable with other people in a way that maybe I just hadn't ever learned before. And so I want you to kind of describe, that's what's different to me of that place. When you talk about like the going deep, I just want to make sure everybody knows like that's the deepness where people really do. It's not a psychodrama.
No.
It's not a genogram.
No.
This is the surgery of the spirit.
Yes. But it's not done by the staff. The staff is there to guide and to help and to assist when needed and maybe direct the direction where we want it to go. But the community is the driver, and I think that makes it, like you were talking about, so much more organic and so much more the connection and, again, finding spirituality within that. The acceptance of that as well is because this is not a staff member that's being paid to sit here and like there is one, but everybody else in that group they're invested and they are participating in this group because they care about you. And that's sometimes the first experience someone's getting with that. If like these people genuinely want to see me get better. And so they are participating, they are active in this group because they want to pull me along with them, It's one of those programs that is just really hard to talk about. It's hard. You have to experience it. Yeah, it really is. It's something
like the slogan is not like trust us. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's hard to bridge that gap.
It really is. I mean, I've even struggled talking with it, to people in 12-step recovery because that's not how you do the steps in 12-step where you meet with a sponsor one-on-one. And it is more, but this group atmosphere of it is so hard to explain how.
Speaking of, I've told you this before and I'm happy for us to go. I think it's a perfect program for people who have decades of recovery.
Yes.
That relapse.
Yes, I agree. And
we don't, there's a disconnect because for people that know how to talk the rehab talk
and
walk the rehab walk and stay kind of below the radar and
the
avoid
fawners.
the fawners,
The fawners, yeah.
like kind of avoid like that's, the hard cases. There is no unwilling, I believe this, I don't know if this is, but I really don't think that there is an unwilling patient. I think that, or an unwilling resident, I think we haven't figured out the combination of help that'll help them get better. But the one that seems to work the most powerful, the most often is community.
Community. Yeah.
And when I think about those people that maybe have been to treatment 3 times and they've sat in all the psychoeducation and they sat in all the family programming, and I'm not saying you can't get more out of that.
No.
That's who Stillwaters can be a great place for. That
is what I talk about that's why I said like it depends on the history of the family member when I'm talking to a loved one. Because it's I have plenty of people that come through on their first time and they do well and they succeed and it's amazing. But when I think about what Stillwaters was designed for and what we are good at is that person who is on their 3rd time. And it's the reason I'm so passionate about working there is because I did that. I went through treatment 3 times in 1 year. I could not seem, and every time I would just come back like, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. Like I do so well here. I go to every group. I'm engaged in the group. Like I'm doing so well here and I'm not getting this thing. And that's who Stillwaters was. I am who Stillwaters was designed for. But I lost my train of thought there on where I was going with that. But yeah, when I'm talking with a family, I talk about like, this is going to be a different experience. It's going to level that really big step into the real world, especially if you were just stepping back into the real world with no continued care, no IOP, no outpatient of any kind, like that's a massive step to go from, like you were talking about, stabilization, just back to work. Like,
yeah, it's also like, what are people's definitions of recovery? Like to me, recovery is defined as, I don't know, nobody... This isn't going to be groundbreaking, but regaining what's been lost in the sense of like an internal posture of relationship with myself, relationship with God, and relationship with other people. That's what recovery is all about, is relationships. And being able, it's funny, it kind of changes, but being able to like successfully negotiate life on life's terms. And when I say successfully, like not break out in handcuffs every time I get emotional.
Yeah.
Or all the external, not go to the hospital because you broke a needle off in your arm and not experience an overdose. But also like the stage 2 kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Being able to live a peaceful life. Yes. Not losing my temper when a tire on my car goes flat.
Yeah. Yeah. The emotional sobriety.
Yeah. That to me is the definition of, and I think that when I think about how we try to teach people, like I was at Stillwaters yesterday, the men's program.
Yeah.
We were talking about this. I don't think I mentioned this to you, but I'm up there with Ed and Jason and Heath and Nick and Greg and all those guys. And I saw someone there that doesn't really matter that, called me for help months and months ago.
Yeah.
And so, I saw this person and they told me this, that, or the other, and they're having a positive experience. And, of course, like I haven't seen this person in they've been out there for a long time. And they're totally different.
Yeah.
Like looking me in my eye and not that, but just the vulnerability and the genuine expression that the person was leading with in that moment was light and day than when I saw this person at a different space.
Yeah.
And later on, I was just with Ed and, of course, they're pontificating about Stillwaters and all the things, in the main office and the main house. And I just turned to him and I said, man, really what this program does really well is it grows up people.
Yes.
Like, and I because I was at the men's program, I was like, you take little boys, no matter how old you are.
No matter how old.
And you help teach them a little bit more about what it means to grow up.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of some literature, we grow up or die. They just so happen to be people that experience addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. It was kind of like when we were talking about from the women's side of it, the men's, the life skills, all and learning how to connect with another human being in a genuine way. That's kind of when I was talking about the women and them creating a healthy relationship with another woman, that's a part of growing up as a female. If like being successful in the world is not I find with women, when they come in, they have a just genuine distrust for the general population, just anybody. You have to build trust with women. And that's how we're different than men. And from what I've seen from the different campuses is the approach to the way we do it at Stillwater's women is slightly different than the men's. But them finding that they can trust all of these women in this facility opens up the bubble for them to not be so closed off when they get out. And I feel like that's how, because what I've found at least is from a life skills perspective, for the most part, when women come into Stillwater's women, they have the life skills. A lot of them have been managing their households. Right. They have been raising babies. They've had to figure it out in a way that
knowing
I don't see with the men as much. 100%. They know the passwords. Yeah.
No. You're right.
There's nothing to get, but it is a different population.
Yeah.
And so there are certain things where it's like, we're not going to harp on this as much. We're going to harp on the emotional maturity more.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I mean, we don't need to, but for example, the women's program is smaller than the men's program here. And that's not because we desire to treat less women.
No.
That's learned institutional wisdom of, on average, how many people are usually coming into our program and what gender they're identifying as, and on average, we're treating less women.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is, Alexis?
In my experience, women wait a lot longer. I don't know the numbers. I would love to have them. I would imagine that mortality rate is not as great because from my experience, the women that come into Stillwater's women, I keep saying that, come into Stillwater's women, have, even if it is their first treatment, their bottoms are really, really low.
Really? You think so?
Really, really low.
Really?
A lot of trauma, a lot of...
Do you think that's just because society's like, you can't leave?
Yeah. I do.
Like you have to help
you have no idea.
with the kids
I have had on multiple occasions, to be transparent with you, I've had on multiple occasions a woman that genuinely wanted to extend, needed to be there, and was told, no, we need you back home to take care of the kids.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking. Now, what I will say, most of those women still out there sober, still doing the thing. They get home and they figure it out. And we walk with them every way. Even though they're not here, we're on the phone with them when things are getting hard. That's what I love about the way that we do it is we keep that connection, They're calling Stillwaters. They're coming back when, hey, I'm dealing with this at home. And we're like, well, we'll walk with you through that. And so they're still doing the deal, So it doesn't mean that they're not successful if that happens, because sometimes that's just the situation we're put in. But yeah, I think the opportunity
they're bringing a different.
What I will say as well is that this is not always an external thing. What I see more often than that is I think somewhere in our genetic makeup, even if you are a mother or not, I am now a mother, so I kind of have both, because I've thought about this when I wasn't a mother and now I think about it when I am one. But I truly believe that somewhere in the genetic makeup of females is this thing that tells us we have to get it together now. I've got a job to get back to. I've got my life to get back to. I've got kids to get back to. So there is something that actually is coming from the resident themselves and the female themselves of like, there is an internal thing. I have it today of like, my brain is always in 12 different places. And I just think that's kind of, so I don't think it is all external. I don't think that it is always people out there saying like, no, you can't seek treatment. I think it is, whether that is a learned behavior or something we are born with of, no, you are not able to do this. You have too much to deal with. And that is something we're telling ourselves. And maybe we're not asking for the help, because that is one of the things we work on the most when we get long-term women at Stillwaters, teaching them to ask for help. They almost never can. And it's the thing they struggle with the most going forward. Like any other thing that we're working on, they'll grab the concept and run with it and like.
But like vulnerable help.
Like, or no, honestly, just any kind of help sometimes. Like genuinely, I have seen women completely spin out to the point they are ready to walk out the door, freak out because they were cooking dinner and they got behind schedule and they didn't know how to do something. And so they just.
Which is another communication
panicked.
skill. I mean, you know.
Exactly. And did not ask for help. Yeah. They did not. Right. They just let it spit.
You should have known that I needed your help. Right.
They spun themselves into this tizzy where they're ready to leave over chicken nuggets. I don't know, whatever they're cooking, you know? And so, but that's another reason I love what we do is because that's okay. Well, now we know you really struggle with this. Let's apply some skills. We're going to assign some tasks.
But yes. And I want to just acknowledge that I think that those pressures are unique to that population.
Yeah.
But then I think of Dar Shea and her long time intervention, teaching families how to ask for help in the blindfolded maze that you can't get out of unless you ask for help, and how much everybody struggles with that.
Everybody.
And I'm just like, why? Why do we struggle with asking for help? And when I say vulnerable help, I mean like, sometimes in my own experience, I was really quick to ask for help with my bills or please take the pain away.
Yes.
You know, but I'm saying I guess what I'm trying to say is vulnerable help. Like I'm not doing okay.
I am not good. I am not okay.
You know, at work.
Yes.
With your boss or I don't know, whatever relationship.
Women are better with the vulnerable help.
You
the men
so?
Are. Yes. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is such an interesting conversation. I could talk about it forever. Yeah, because when I think about my relationships with my girlfriends, and then I think about the relationships with my husband and his guy friends, I got to a more vulnerable, deeper place with these women in an hour and a half than he has in 6 years, because we just lay it out, you know. And when women walk into that program, I don't usually have a problem getting them to be vulnerable about where they are in here, you know, like sometimes for sure. And there's definitely stuff we work on and admitting that you're not okay and things like that. But I would say when I'm looking at both programs that women do better with being able to admit like, hey, I'm not okay today. Like, this is what's going on. And, you know, especially once that trust is built, usually within the first 5-6 days, they're really open to it. They're really vulnerable. They're ready to dive into that side of
other
them.
people and being like, what?
Yes.
They just talk to themselves like that?
That frees. It opens them.
Nobody threw hands.
The men is not that way. The men, they do lock it down a little bit more. So I think that that's a learned behavior, you know, if you look at it.
Definitely a deer in headlights, but that's just being new to anything, kind of like, what is going on here? Is this, you know, a couple sleeps in a row and like everybody's fine? That guy's happy after yesterday. When
Doesn't
we, like,
seem like they're faking it.
Right.
Yeah. No Kool-Aid being passed around.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, pain is pain too. It's hard to be the main character in your own story. So everybody's walking around with something.
Yeah.
You know, and being two people that got clean and sober really young, at least for me in my life, more has happened in my recovery life of almost 16 years than happened, I got clean when I was 20 years old.
Yep, 22.
And so it's just interesting how your relationship with recovery changes and the seasons that you go through.
Yeah.
And how excited I get when I see new faces in those programs. And I'm like, yes. And I see them walking around with the green and gold. And just knowing that even being out there, my phone wasn't getting on the Wi-Fi, which I wasn't even mad about. You know what I mean?
It's just
I wasn't going to submit a pinpoint.
Fine.
I was like, it'll be okay. Everybody else seemed to be not complaining, so
they
I'll
know
let
where
it
I'm
go.
at. They'll call here if they need me.
And but it was just such a reprieve to be in that environment. There's something else too that I wish we would talk about more in treatment in general, which is technology.
Yeah.
Specifically the smartphone and all of the apps and all of the, I have a bad habit of checking my email,
Me too.
And I just checked it, and anyways, it just reminds me of being out there because there are no phones.
There's nothing.
And there's something really beautiful about
fully disconnecting.
On-site workshops takes your phones away too when you go to their intensives. A digital detox is what they call it.
Yeah. I say this all the time.
What do you say?
This is if somebody gave me okay, you can do one thing to save the world. What are you doing? I would say
blow up the phones.
Get rid of smartphones.
You're probably right.
Get rid of smartphones. You don't have to get rid of all communication.
Social media.
That too. But smartphones make social media not accessible, means we wouldn't use it as much. When I was in high school and we were on our at-home computers on MySpace, I wasn't losing my mind the way that I am now. You know what I mean?
True.
But I'm carrying around a computer in my pocket. I am too accessible and I have too much access to everybody else's lives.
So my fear with technology, and we're in an evolution point, is... And I'm not how do we balance? So we're trying to help people. We're trying to help people stick around long enough to experience something, however they describe it, that'll help them unlock their ability to live a happy, joyous life.
Yes.
And sometimes I get worried, which is probably me trying to... Maybe I should take this to a third step. But sometimes you get a little worried about the balance of, giving access and not giving access, because I just reflect on my own experience of being in rehab and inpatient psychiatric rehabilitation in 2010. And I don't think I could have handled access to my Facebook at all.
Zero.
I would have been so curious, obsessed with who was doing what.
Yeah. It'd have been really bad for me. We did not.
Do you talk about it? Because it's 2026. So how do y'all talk about this?
So for us.
Good question.
Such a good question. For us, we have a lot more limited access to phones out there, mostly because of the cell phone Wi-Fi and cell service situation.
There's a reason, Alexis.
But it's great. I love it. I wouldn't change it. If somebody came down the hill and was like, "Hey, would you guys like to have cellular?"
That's an inside joke for everybody. Because we've struggled with whatever infrastructure.
Yeah. No, I'm serious. If somebody came down and was like, "Would you like to have cellular?" I'd be like,
interesting.
No. Because I also use it as a good. Why? I've got Wi-Fi. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the men, they get no access to their phones until later programs.
Yeah, right.
I'm a big proponent in starting to give access to it when you get into the longer term programs, because I feel like it would be flood to spend 5 months in a residential setting, no access to your cell phone, and someone hand you your cell phone when you're walking out the door. So that sounds like so we ease them into that when you get into those later programs with the cell phone use. But for the most part, they don't miss it. Once you fully remove it,
right.
It's always, when I'm talking with people about still waters, because I talk to a lot of families, I talk to a lot of potential. Always.
No.
Always.
Really?
9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10. Coming from a place where they're getting more phone access and then moving to a place that is supposed to feel like a step down, but I'm getting less phone access.
Interesting.
Immediate. What I will say, not as much of a barrier for the men. More of a barrier for the women. I don't know. They may go back to that previous conversation about we're the managers of the household kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've made some tweaks to their accessibility to be able to manage their households. And that has lessened it a lot.
Right.
And
need to take care of business.
100%.
Yeah. Need to make sure that the kid's getting to the doctor's appointment.
Yeah. When you sit down with your case manager, we're going to handle everything you need. Your needs are going to be taken care of. And so assuring them that kind of removes that.
Right.
But yeah, most people don't miss it, but it has been a really big learning experience with the women, especially in the long term. When they do start getting their phones back, they'll start, like, we ease them into it. At first, it's just like, okay, Friday night, here's your cell phone. Experience it a little bit and then turn it back in. And then next time it's just Saturday. And the goal is to get them to where by the time they leave, they are pretty used to having their cell phone for a full weekend. They get access to it and they're not
smart.
Yeah. And so it just
have the time
eases
to do
them
that,
into it. Most of them make the decision by that point too, to get off social media and delete it. You know, not all, but a lot make that decision. But by then we're able to kind of talk about it, you know, because like we're seeing, like, if they're posting all weekend while they've got that, like we can kind of process through that on Monday. Like, hey, what in here are we trying to like fill? Because we want to, let's work on what that is before you leave.
Everybody needs to have this conversation.
We do. We all do. Like, what you could go into the brain chemistry of social media. It's an absolutely addicting thing. Like, there's a whole conversation that could be had about that we'll have to start. We'll do a different podcast one day. But it's, I love being able, that's kind of what I'm talking about, like how real life we can make it, is I want to present as many real life experiences as possible while at Stillwaters so that we can learn through that. Social media being a really big one. Conversations with your family being a really big one. If you've got a boyfriend, I'm going to give you a little access to that because I want to know that it's healthy and that you know how to have this healthy relations. Like, there are so many things.
And there are probably times that you're like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, we rate it back in a lot. Yeah. That's a part of it, is we have to, and I will tell them from the jump of, hey, I'm going to give you some freedoms at this point. If we go off track, I'm going to rein it in. It's always going to be for your safety. Everything we do surrounding anything like this is so I can keep you and the rest of this community safe. And what I've found with women is if you will just explain, if you are having to remove a privilege or, you know, give a consequence, whatever the thing may be, if you will just explain to them how this is, I'm doing this not because I said so, but I am doing this because this is the area that I want to see you grow in from this, they'll almost always be like, yeah, let's do it. And they're excited about it. Women just need a little more, like that whole, like, well, you're going to do it because I'm a staff member and I told you to. Like, women don't respond well to that. So, you know.
Neither do I, by the way.
I really don't. Like, I don't tell me how this is benefiting me.
But like, I think that the men's program, in order to communicate with your brother or with somebody that you're close to, you have to have in any confrontational way, you have to have a strong alliance.
Yeah.
So there's a way to have a conversation with somebody, like when you're in group and you're presenting on your step and you describe something as ABC, and during one of those breaks where you're getting questions asked and somebody says, hey, I just want you to, you know, we know we're all here for you, but on question 51, just now you said ABC and last night you said X, Y, and Z. And I just want all of us to know and help you clarify what the truth really is.
Yeah.
So that's confrontational, but that's coming from a space of a lot of
I don't feel that is confrontational. What I'm referring to, yes, it is. It's healthy.
No.
We all have to know how to do that. That is a life skill, is to know how to.
Perhaps it's not said that way sometimes.
Healthy, not always. But I believe that teaching, that is something to teach, is how to confront someone about their behavior while not burning that relationship to the ground, and be confronted and accept that. And a lot of that comes from like,
that's hard.
Oh, it's really hard. Oh, conflict resolution. Oh, it's like 90% of my job, but it is the biggest thing that you really need going out into the world to develop and maintain long-term relationships is, do I know how to communicate what I'm feeling? Do I know how to communicate what's bothering me? Do I know how to communicate what you just said and how it made me feel without attacking you, without cussing, without any, like, these are major life skills. We're talking like long things I'm still figuring out.
The irony of this and the program and everything we've talked about is like, how many times have you been talking about using drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, no, like none.
Like, it just so happens to be that these beautiful people struggle with addiction. But all of this stuff, I think most people are probably like, that sounds like something that's positive for anybody. So if you're curious, you can check out a step working guide.
Yes. That has been my experience with my family. Is for a really long time, I was like this person that they all needed to fix, and they were so worried about, and I was going to die. And la, la, la. And then I got sober, and they were really hesitant because I'd been sober before. And so it was just like, oh God, nobody make any sudden movements or she might go off the rails. And then after about 2 years, my family went through something really big, and I was able to show up and just be a family member. And it changed the dynamic in my family from that point forward to now. They've gotten curious about, who are you? Like, what happened to you? Because even before drugs and alcohol, I was not this person. I was not pleasant by any means. Like, I was a pretty unhappy, pretty mean child and teenager before I ever used a drink or a drug. And now I am a just totally different person. I try to be of service and have all these qualities. And so it's made them, we hear the term like sober curious, but they're not interested in getting sober. They're just interested in like, what's going on emotionally with you? I would really like to learn about that. And I'm like, I'm just gonna leave this right here. But yeah, I love when normies, as they call them, people that do not struggle with drugs and alcohol, get interested in what we're doing here, because it could benefit everybody. It's not the only reason that this is for people with a substance use disorder is because we're the ones that are experiencing enough consequences to have to make these internal changes to save our lives. Like, when we're talking about people in the regular world who are just, you don't get enough pain from these types of behaviors to like want to do the work that it takes to change it.
Or have the world, push you into rehab.
Yeah, that too.
So what does Stillwater's cost these days? How much does it cost to go to Stillwater's?
So self-pay, we are looking at, this is without any insurance, it is $97.50 for the first month, $97.50 for the second month, and $11,250 for the next 3 months, which breaks down to about $37.50 per month for months 4, 5, or 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 3, 4, 5. Insurance we bill at an IOP level of care for insurance, which will typically cover anywhere from 30 to maybe 50% of that.
Yeah.
First 2 months.
That's very, compared to what a program cost. I mean, I was at a program last year visiting that was $100,000 for 30 days. And I really do believe, I'll say this so you don't have to, but I really do believe that our programs are some of the best at balancing access and quality.
Mm-hmm.
And given the fact that we're a nonprofit organization and that we're a proud in-network provider.
Yes.
So we don't bill out of network at all.
Ever. Yeah.
And we're able to, for the Stillwaters program in particular, maintain, because we could charge more for that program.
Good.
And we're able to maintain that price point
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that it's as accessible as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
big proponent of accessibility. And it's one of the reasons I love working for Cumberland Heights is because there is, you know, like you said, you could charge more. Like we could charge more, but I don't want to. We want this thing to be accessible to people.
Yeah, you want to pay for the program, but want more people to be able to afford it. And even I don't know, there's not a lot of people that can afford, $10,000 a month.
There's not.
But what I love about this place is, every person finds a home, every call finds a home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you call, we're going to find you the place that's right for you in your financial situation, no matter what.
Yep.
I
agree.
And sometimes that is Stillwaters. And sometimes, as quiet as it's kept, we'll work with each person individually.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what can you do?
Yeah.
I can do X. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then what if we helped you get on a payment plan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like whatever it takes to make sure that, we're doing everything that we can for each person, not to mention patient assistance and what we're able to provide annually in terms of scholarships.
Yeah.
So it is nice. It is nice to work for a place like that.
I've been with Stillwaters for almost 3 years now as the director and was the business development person before that. And in those years, I can count maybe on one hand the amount of people we have had to turn away for financial reasons.
That's all. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Anytime, because I almost cried.
Like, it's not going to be the barrier.
Get teary-eyed there for a second. I was like so
it's
proud.
The lights.
Yeah. Anyway, I was talking to somebody because people will come to me who really want to come out of Cumberland Heights, and we're having a conversation. They're like, "Okay, can you talk to me about this?" And I'm like, "Look, this is not my department. I'm going to send you to talk to our financial department because I'm not the one who discusses this. But I can see that you're stressed out about it. What I can tell you is this," and that's when I can say, I've been doing this for a long time, and I can only think of a few people that have not been able to come for financial reasons, you know? And they always found where they were supposed to be in that, Yeah. So I'm just super grateful and proud to work for
We're lucky to have you. I'm super grateful that you're here. I don't know why God decided to grab you at your collar. I mean, I do. We won't get into that today, but, we're so lucky to have people like you and that team out there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
That was almost an hour. Flew by.
What?
Thank you for listening. Like, follow, subscribe. We'll see you next time.